That was like the worst fade, worst music fade ever. It's a complete failure. Um, anyways, hello, fellow boomers, potential future boomers. This is Marcus, better known as Boomer Tester. Let's get started. We got a lot to cover today. I started to watch this video and I realized that it could be a good opportunity to live stream my reaction. So we're doing reaction content like everyone else does. I personally enjoy React content. I know it's sort of a meme. It's sort of this overplayed thing by now, but I actually really appreciate and enjoy reaction content. Maybe I'm part of the problem, right? I'm part of the problem. But this is also an opportunity to shout out Joe Calantonio. Hoping I'm saying Joe's name right. I've heard it enough times. I feel like I should. I don't know. Are we having audio problems? I don't think so. If we are, it's okay. I think it's actually a webcam problem, and I'm thinking about upgrading my webcam soon. But first of all, I want to shout out Joe Calantonio. Excellent founder, owner, one of those of the Automation Guild, Testing Guild, one of the best online conferences, one of the best resources, including this YouTube channel. It's technically like a podcast for software testing. If you want to stay on the very cutting edge of software testing, hear from some of the most prolific people in software testing, this is pretty much the place to go, in my opinion. There are other conferences, but Joe is continuously pumping out excellent content, constantly asking the right kind of questions and having really great people. So just want to shout out Joe. In this episode, he talks to Jason Arbon. I'm sorry if I pronounced Jason's last name incorrectly. I've actually had a few DMs with Jason about software testing. We've had some conversations on social media as well where I didn't agree with Jason on some things, but he was super gracious and very kind in DMs. We kind of discussed a little more. It had to do with what the purpose of testing is. I feel like a lot of things that Jason says are really informed by his perspective on testing, and it's okay if your perspective on testing is different than someone else's, because it's going to create this really healthy sort of ecosystem for testing. We all kind of need to have different perspectives. We'll have kind of different approaches, and eventually somehow we'll come to the best testing process and perspective by kind of absorbing all the different opinions. There's just going to be times, especially with software testing, that people just don't agree with each other, and that's okay. It's totally fine. So a lot to cover. If for some reason you are watching this later and you're like, when does this person stream? Well, I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. All the other time zones, I'm not going to placate to. I don't know what time zone or what I would be in other time zones. You could use, maybe I should do like server time. We should do UTC. Be like, this is when we stream UTC. It'd be more nerdy and technical. But yes, I stream on YouTube, Kick, and Twitch so far. I may add more to that stack because I'm crazy. Apologize, my skin's dry. I'm just so excited to watch this video. My skin's just a little dry. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into this video. I hope I can contribute some useful thoughts to this. Again, the video definitely brought out some visceral feelings in me. If you're watching on YouTube, there will be a link to the original video if you want to watch it without my noise. I'm going to let this roll. I'm going to let any advertisements that Joe does roll because I feel like I should reciprocate that if I'm going to use Joe's video to create content. We can put content in quotes very loosely. Content. And I apologize. It was not used to me. I do use my hands a lot. Okay, I'm very much like a very handsy person when it comes to gestures. To my detriment, I've knocked over coffee cups or glasses in conversation with friends. I'm not even upset, but just forewarned. But let's hop right in. Let me do maybe a better fade on my tunes because we don't want the tunes to play over Joe. If you are watching this live and there is an audio problem, I always welcome audio criticism and feedback. I've been trying to simplify my audio setup so I have a little less control, and in turn, my audio setup is simpler, yet I have less control. So, yeah, just literally going with one mic with a headphone jack, where before I had a whole audio interface with separate monitoring, but I just wanted to make my life simpler. This is one USB-C cable. It goes right into my desktop. But let's get started here. The video is about AI's impact on testing careers. It's got Jason Arbon. He is the owner of, is it Tester.ai or Testers? We'll find on the video, and Checky.ai and possibly other products. Again, a bit controversial if you're a manual software tester. I have so many thoughts. I don't want to bury the lead. Let's just jump in.
Hey, in this episode, our special guest, Jason Arbon, will be presenting a truly eye-opening
Jason Arbon. See, I think I pronounced it correctly.
conversation about AI-driven software testing. And in this candid discussion, he really doesn't shy away from some really difficult questions like, what does AI mean for human testers? How reliable are AI-generated tests and results? And what skills do testers need in an era where AI handles the bulk of basic testing?
I'm already like, handles the bulk of, they say intro or basic software testing. I don't remember what he said exactly. I do have a video coming out soon. I just did a live stream for it that has to do with AI assisted code reviews. So very, very related to this. I'm definitely deep into this space, or trying to get as deep into this space. So hopefully that gives me some credibility if I have strong opinions.
So whether you're intrigued, skeptical, or just curious about how AI can be used for quality assurance activities, this episode is a must listen. But before we get into it, let's hear from this week's awesome sponsor, BrowserStack, and their AI-powered low-code automation solution.
Sure. Yeah. I'm definitely more on the skeptical side, but not wanting to keep myself completely sheltered from generative AI. I think I've already talked in the past about how I think that generative AI is a useful tool and should be currently leveraged and treated like an intern, work from an intern. But let's let this roll. I use BrowserStack's website. They have a web app out there for software testing. In fact, it's part of the previous live stream I did. That's going to be a YouTube video once I have started editing it. I use their site. But let's let the ad roll.
Check it out. Hey, let's face it. Many testing solutions require high coding proficiency, excluding non-technical team members from the testing process. Steep learning curves, script maintenance, and the need for skilled resources and infrastructure setup are other significant challenges. As a result, QA teams are forced to limit automation to critical applications, leaving significant gaps in automation coverage. So what do? Well, introducing BrowserStack Low-Code Automation. It's a powerful end-to-end low-code testing platform built upon best-in-class BrowserStack capabilities that lets anyone create automated tests in minutes without coding expertise. With their intuitive test recorder, you can create your first automated tests with ease. Simply interact with your application and capture complex actions like hovering, scrolling, file uploads, etc., and generate test steps with meaningful, human-readable descriptions. Timeouts are intelligently configured for each test step, ensuring stability without manual intervention. Visual validation ensures specific UI elements appear correctly, improving accuracy and test stability. But here's the interesting piece. Their low-code automation tool is powered by AI. It uses natural language to create test steps and simplify automation of complex user journeys. When UI changes occur, self-healing technology automatically adopts your tests to prevent failures. You can also easily scale your low-code testing with automation best practices for testing across different devices and browsers. You can also bring modularity, reusability, and extensibility into your low-code tests with advanced features like modules, variables, data-driven testing, and many more. Join over 50,000 customers, including some Fortune 500 businesses who trust BrowserStack low-code automation, and take your automation testing to the next level using the special link down below. Hey, Jason.
Yeah, and go to Joe if you are actually interested. Go to Joe's video, which there's a link in this video to it, and click through. I am willing to do a demo of a tool like that if it hopefully runs on Linux, because I stream and I do a lot of my pet project development on Linux, specifically Pop! OS. I have a MacBook Pro. I don't have a Windows machine easily available to me. I have run into problems in the past where it only runs on Mac or Windows. Really disappointing. I'm willing to give those type of tools a chance, but I'm highly skeptical of them. For a quick background, those that don't know me, I'm a automation engineer, software development engineer in test. So I'm a software developer that writes automated tests, but also advises on quality, risk, best practices, and things like that. So quality assurance in the sense that you're wanting to look at the entire width of the stack, holistic look and approach. When a defect happens, why did it happen? How do we keep defects like this from reoccurring instead of just waiting till the end? But with these type of tools, I have many concerns that are outside of the scope of this video or this live stream. And what the first one being is ownership. Ownership is always a big one. I work with a lot of entities that have particular, how could you say, like, well, they have policies on who has ownership of things, because we're dealing with a lot of like PII and things like that. So one of the challenges there, if we don't own those tests, and if we're not good stewards, potentially we could put some PII at risk of people in the system, right? So my worry is always like, you invest all this time and money into a system a testing system that you don't have ownership of if you stop giving them money. Okay. Where even though it's more difficult, when you write automated tests with a open source framework like Cypress.io, like Playwright, like Selenium WebDriver, and all its many implementations, for the better and for the worse, your team and your org owns that. At least they own your approach and implementation of that testing framework or stack. Where if you go with one of these services, often, almost always and often, you are now locked. You are locked in, and when you go to leave, you don't have access to that anymore. So, soapbox kicked away. Let's get back in the video.
Tim, welcome back to the guild.
Thanks, Joe. It's been a little while. Actually, it feels like a few years in testing world, but only a couple months.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, talking about that, a lot goes on in a few months. So since we spoke, MCP, I'm already off topic. MCP has been a huge thing.
Yeah.
What's the deal with MCP? What is it and why is it important?
It's basically a way to let people type to and interact with tools from a prompt, basically. So the idea is usually you'd have to, like in the old days of COM, actually, so that dates me. But you used to have like, very, very strict APIs, and you had to code to them and understand them and read the documentation and all this stuff. Even command lines, you have to memorize all the switches and stuff like that. The idea is that MCP lets you take a tool and share it in a way with an AI, like an LLM. And then the person can just say what they want, and it figures out which tool to use and how to use it for you. And it can even cascade call. So it can make a call to one tool and then take the output of that and put it to another one. So it's really a workflow, high level workflow engine, natural language kind of workflow engine on top of other tools. It enables all that kind of magic.
So is that the same as agentic AI?
No, kind of. Depends on whatever people want to call agentic.
Okay.
Yeah. The true definition, like an agentic thing, is the purest form is that you have a bunch of AI agents that collaborate together, and often without much human interference or inspiration, and to accomplish a goal together. MCP applications are usually more often these days more like I want to accomplish a single thing, right? Like download this image and convert it to ASCII art and then post it to my webpage. But it's not really like a long running multi-agents concurrently working on different aspects and then rolling them up. And so it's baby agentic, I guess I would say.
MCP is one of those things. It's like the it's like the Parks and Recreation meme with gosh, what's the character? Andy Dwyer, where it's like I don't know what MCP is, but I'm afraid to ask. What does MPC like in regards? Because I know it's machine learning. MCP meaning, because I don't think, if I remember, because I did watch the beginning of this video, I don't think they talk about what MCP specifically is in regards to like the acronym. So MCP, thank you, Internet, stands for Model Context Protocol, not machine learning. No, well, I know, but it has to do with machine learning. Come on. It is open source developed by Anthropic to connect AI assistants to various data sources, including content repositories, business tools, and development environments. The protocol aims to help AI models produce more relevant and accurate responses by providing a universal way to interact with external systems and data sources. The way it was explained to me, I wasn't given the acronym, it's like an API for generative AI systems, but might be an oversimplification. But let's keep going.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Jason, every time I talk to you, it seems like you have another company up and running, very prolific. So the latest
failure. It's a sign of failure, Joe.
I wouldn't say failure because you're iterating. It seems like so. The next one looks pretty mind blowing. You gave it a little teaser of it at Automation Guild called Testers AI. Why did you create Testers AI? I guess something good to start with.
So funny thing is actually probably interesting to the testing world is that I actually created Testers.ai much earlier than Checky, by the way. Like I created it a while ago, but testers weren't ready for it. So just the early reception I got from talking to testers, the human testers, is it sounded threatening because they're kind of scared of AI, to be frank. And then you go, well, this thing is my job.ai. That's a little concerning. So I avoided that and created the Checky site for a while to as an umbrella for everything. Because it's more friendly, and also like there's a lot of the testing debate. You had some probably earlier this morning, the difference between testing and checking.
Well, let's pull those sites out. Was it testers.ai? Okay, and then that was man, I gotta get myself in a .ai domain name. We may do a demo of these in the future. Always free. That's really good. Yeah, we may do a demo. Wait, did Checky.ai take me to testers? No. Oh, he did. Okay. So this is interesting. This is like a full blown rebrand without and then eventually it redirects you. So looks like Checky.ai and testers.ai for all intents and purposes is the same thing. I get rid of my little sidebar. I actually don't like that. I'll do it like it. I want to get rid of this little sidebar. I may just have to ignore it and leave it there, but it annoys me for some reason. I don't remember it being there before. Yeah, most definitely a demo of this in the future for us. Because from what I remember, there's some bold claims, and I want to see if I can take this for a spin and really take those bold claims to test or to task. But let's keep going.
Yes.
And so there was also a joke on checking because like, oh, the AI just checks. It doesn't do everything. Don't worry about it. And don't be concerned. But what's happened is I think both the community and the world has moved fast enough that now people want agentic things. They want they want testers to be AI as much as possible and to use AI as much as possible. So the mood and the environment's changed. So I went back to testers.ai.
I feel like there's a lot of spaces where that's not true. I would take to task that I believe that is too general of a statement, maybe because I have experience in the civic engineering space where this is not completely true. Where there's very specific policies in place when it comes to how we do things, very specific policies. I would say, and another thought I have, I would love to know how much time Jason spends now doing testing on software projects, real software projects with real companies, real products. This isn't a dig. I honestly want to know if he still has his hands kind of like dirty and into things like actual testing, or if all his time and effort is spent on the AI testing products that he's been working on. It's not a bad thing. I just hopefully he's taking the input of people who are currently doing software testing on products that people are using, to kind of to have that perspective and have that sort of gut check.
That's actually what that loop was about.
All right, very nice. So, what does it do? Why were people afraid of it? Or when people see it now, it looks kind of still. If you go there, you have like looks like a little different personas of testers or testing activities.
You're talking about these
that
up top.
Utilize.
Yeah, it's actually very similar thread that I've been on the last, year and a half, 2 years. The idea is that you create these different personas, like exactly like these testers. There's a tester focused on usability. There's a testing agent focused on performance. There's a testing agent focused on security. And then what you do is like the ideal test team, actually, right? So you have one of every specialty kind of in the world of testing. Usually you can't afford that or find those people. And by the way, if you look at their pictures, they're the most beautiful test team on the planet. Did you notice that? They are AI generated, but AI doesn't generate people like me. They're all beautiful people. So I left it that way. So it's the most beautiful testing team on the planet. But the idea is that
It's really weird that scroll bar won't work for me. I can't seem to scroll this. I found a bug on the testing AI site now. I wonder if this is just maybe it's specifically a Brave thing, but I'm not able to scroll this to look at the other stuff. That's interesting.
yeah, you just point them to a website and they look for bugs for you across all those different dimensions of quality. And the crazy thing, Joe, this is the eureka that's happened since we checked last. What's mind blowing actually to me, and I'm an optimist, and people call me an AI cheerleader or something sometimes, but I really got.
I would call it EAC. There's D cells and there's EAC, and then there's everyone in between. But I would put Jason in the EAC category, where I struggle. I mean, based on everything he posts, based on conversations I've had with him in DMs, I would put him as the EAC. I've personally struggled between D cell and EAC. The kind of testing side of me, the pessimistic side of me, really kind of leans towards D cell. Like, we should regulate this stuff. Oh my gosh. But then there's another part of me that realizes overregulation means that the only people that get AI are usually the people in power. I really struggle because I really feel like there has to be some way to balance this, and maybe it's just the market balancing out regulation. I don't know. It's definitely a big struggle, but I would call Jason, even though I don't know if he would categorize himself as an EAC. I think he's an EAC. I think for him, it's like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, or paint an incorrect picture, but I really get the impression like he's all about like just accelerate more AI. Who cares about security? Who cares about safety and alignment? We just want like the biggest, most powerful AI doing all the stuff we used to do. And maybe I sit somewhere in between. If there's some sort of, it depends on when I wake up. Have I not liked this video? Like if I wake up, sometimes I'm a doomer, a D-cell doomer, and some days I wake up, I'm EAC. Sometimes I'm working on a project and I use generative AI to help and it does accelerate me. I'm like, yeah, I'm EAC. And then the times I'm wrestling with it, just fine, I'll write it myself. I get into that we'll do it live type situation. It's like, okay, now I'm a D-cell again. Anyways.
I got this working, and I ran on the porch and I did a happy dance, and it's recorded apparently on my porch video. My kid found it.
We need proof of that. I won't believe it until we see video, a happy dance.
And but it's crazy. What happened is the AI is now, and that's also what's recently pushed up on the testers.ai, is that these agents can find bugs, but they can also create test cases, so functional test cases. So they can look at a web page, auto-generate a full test suite of test cases, like hundreds of tests, and then execute them.
Yes, and you can find a lot of agencies that will use farms of people, usually in foreign countries, that will do the same thing. And the value of those tests is potentially questionable. So, again, I'm hoping he can bolster this position, but to me, that's where you get in that position of, I guess I should preface, I've been brought into places a lot of times where they've hired these, I would call them, it's like farms of people that will write tests for you. Um, and I've come in because often there's too many tests. The client is uncertain as to what the tests are actually doing, whether it's actually covering any of their requirements. They just wrote a lot of tests, a lot of automated tests, and it's super fragile, flaky. My worry with generative AI is that is what we're going to get. We're just getting a new version of that because it's all about we want this cheap way to get lots of testing. And it almost never works, and almost always they have to bring someone like me in to clean up after, and I cost more. People like me cost a lot more money than these, affordable, very affordable groups. Again, usually overseas where the wages are much lower, and you can get these large groups of people that will write lots of tests for you. So my initial thought with anything like this is that that's where we end up. We end up with, just instead of people, it's a bunch of agents that write millions of tests for you. You don't know if they're actually testing the things you need to be tested, the things your users will actually do, and the things your users will actually care about. But I'm hoping I'm proven wrong, right? I want I keep going between the EAC and the DCell.
Like they can do login, they can do in happy paths, sad paths, edge cases for search, login, form fill, just interactivity, menus, all that stuff. They can generate a full suite, execute them, and then generate a report that visually shows you what they did and the bugs they found, all in like less than an hour. It's kind of crazy. So, and this is
how much did it cost in compute? I mean, we're talking about it more affordable. A lot of these AI companies are taking a loss because they're trying to get into the market and lock in. So they're taking a loss. They have investors. This is, again, where my brain, pessimistic brain, kind of goes, yeah, but compute costs money. And compute is not getting as cheap as we'd like. And compute costs power. If you watch any of the machine learning podcasts or speakers, the big concern here is power because of compute. Compute. We need more compute to scale these systems up. I would honestly love to see what the real cost is compared to what the consumer may pay on the end. Because again, a lot of these companies are taking a loss because they have investors that are trying to accelerate and get ahead of the market. So skepticism furthers because like, oh, this was a really cheap thing they did in like an hour. How much did it actually cost? What's the actual cost compared to the consumer cost? That's something I would love to know and maybe find some research data on.
What's crazy about it is that this is better coverage than most test teams have. I've worked on a lot of test teams in the past. Maybe they've all, for some reason, not been very good. But this is better coverage than we would deliver in months. And it can happen in like less than an hour. So we're entering a new world, Joe. Like, and also if you think about it, like I overly get excited. It's also kind of funny because all these other tools and teams are like trying to fix one little piece of their workflow, right? Like fix selectors is this amazing thing. Well, with AI, you just don't need selectors. Like if you have an AI first approach, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of your testing workflow, you let the AI do all the bulk work first, and the humans come in after and review it and say, and sometimes, bad robot, false positive, negative. But the vast majority of the data, the bugs and the coverage is legit. So
that's not my experience so far, but I haven't tried this tool. That's not my experience. My experience has been using generative AI to help write automated tests and test plans. The hallucinations are really frustrating, and often I find myself wrestling with the in IDE editors. I have found success using it at times for assisted code review, which I have that video coming out soon, which we already did the live stream on Friday, I think. This is not the experience I've had. If you're watching this on YouTube later, down below, please comment and tell me if you think I'm full of crap. And you watch this, say, yes, I have had the same experience that Jason's talking about. I would honestly love to hear about it.
Net 100 times faster than doing it yourself. So we're in a new world, Joe. This is something I didn't expect to happen this year, frankly, and it's running in demonstrable today.
So, what's the quality though? Because once again, I
Thank you, Joe.
had another interview, pretty eye opening there as well.
Tell us who it was, Joe.
Well,
you'll
tell by when it's released. But they showed a user a graph of someone using an application, and they showed they had multiple profiles of different users using the application as a real user, and then they showed an automated script and what that looked like, and it's totally different. And
yes, exactly. Exactly. Because the goal, I think the goal of a lot of these orgs is to take the human out of the software testing. And I think my initial reaction is that is ill-advised. I think the last place you want fully agentic, fully autonomous tests, anything, is testing. I really do. Because the developers are going to be using generative AI to assist them. Understand their code overall generally less, then we're going to need humans in the loop even more than ever in regards to quality and especially risk assessment and mitigation. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I agree with Joe here. How users actually interact with the system. Another thing is, as far as we know, generative AI is not capable of telling you if an application is intuitive. Neither is automated testing. It's not able to tell you, like, this is a good user experience, this is a poor user experience based on the needs of a particular type of user persona. I guess you could create agents that are that person. How accurately can you do that? But I agree. This is I agree with Joe here. I think he's kind of nailing part of my point on the head.
And they were saying how different the intent is from behavior. So
yes,
how good are the results from these agents? If they're
so, a couple of things I'll note. I challenge you to ask the people that talk about this stuff what tests they have run lately, and again, in a real world app, and what bugs they've found that anyone actually fixed.
We can do that.
We'll leave that aside
actually,
for now.
Actually, the problem is I can't because it's all under non-disclosure. I would love to, but most of it's under non-disclosure. Lots of. I'd be interested to see what he means by type of bugs. Yeah, I don't know. Let's let him cook.
The real story with agents is that, first of all, say that's true, completely true. That AI agents or whatever, even just regular automation, can't catch all these nuanced issues and stuff like that.
We're not. I don't think we're saying that. I think what Joe's getting to, or was trying to get to, is this idea of, well, I think it's still the idea of you need humans in the loop because there's things that automation and what it looks like agents are bad at telling us or giving us the feedback. Again, usability. I'm a user that needs to accomplish a goal in the system, and I'm going to use it differently than your prescriptive way. I've got to think of some weird way to use the system and seem befuddled because in my head, it's supposed to like work a certain way, right? Or my workflow may be totally different than you think. I may be using your app for use cases you never thought of. So I think Jason might be misunderstanding Joe's point of, because I think what they're proposing is no human in the loop, fully agentic, fully autonomous. You don't have a job. And again, very ill-advised. And I think you're going to be missing out on a lot of you're going to be missing out on the value of what QA means, which is quality assurance, not quality control, which is a subset of the testing landscape. Because that's what AI, generative AI, is good at. It's good at quality control. Quality assurance, that is yet to be seen, in my opinion, and based on my experience.
One thing is that most test teams don't have the time to do that in the first place because they're doing all of the rote basic work. Like they basically can't keep on top of the basic testing. So a lot of people that teach or try to give presentations on the nuance of some sophisticated testing procedure, very rarely is that stuff executed in production because no one has the time to begin with. So I highly recommend people let AI or some other form of testing do the basics so they can focus on those types of things.
I agree.
Secondly, if you actually look at it, the agents that I'm running, and you know me, I try not to self-promote too much because it gets dated too, but you can generate not only, there's personas in there, there's user feedback personas in this stuff that I'm working on. So it will look at the web page and dynamically generate personas that would like to interact with that page. So say it's a medical device company, it will create hospital administrators. It will create like in the medical world, it creates personas that match that application, and then ask them for not only just functional coverage, but qualitative feedback on that website.
The way generative AI works, though, this doesn't make any sense because it's trying to guess what a person in that position would say to you, which is not the same. It's too much anthropomorphization of agents. When agents right now, generative AI, they're trying to guess the kind of text that a user would send to you in that role. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
And even more fun is that you can also create your own personas. So I was working with a travel agency, travel search company. And one of their personas was a great example. And also these people were talking very nebulous, high level kind of vagaries. This is a real company trying to do real testing on a real travel search site. And one of their personas, they have some personas defined. One of their personas is a very rich first-class traveler, international traveler that always travels with their dog. Like you can imagine this lady with the dog in the purse or something, right? But they have very special things they're searching for and they're looking for and they need in their itinerary. And so the question is, how does it work? How well does it work for that person? So you can create these personas and feed them into the agents. And this is where tester creativity is maximized. So they spend all day thinking about these nursing personas, but then you feed it into the agents. They ingest that and they give feedback based on that persona. So it's kind of true what they're saying, but the reality is no one really does that. And also the reality is you can actually do it better, faster, and cheaper ironically with AI and automation. And ask them again what tests they've actually run and any bugs they've actually filed that were fixed.
Okay, and then back to that cheaper point, I would be really interested to see what actual cost is. Compute's not getting that much cheaper. Compute costs money. Compute cost money. How do I say like a cave person? So this cheaper thing, I don't know. The cheaper, better thing is definitely, I don't know why it's alarm bells, because it doesn't look to me on the surface that different than just a farm of manual testers sitting in some data center in some part of the world where wages are lower. It's just now they're digital agents in a digital data center writing the tests for you. And most of the time the outcome is not quality.
So this sounds cool, but if I am a tester, I don't know if I want it to be true, like you said, because I still think there's resistance to, all right, if this does this, then what does a tester do?
Right. So I almost should have asked you to ask that question. I've also been interacting with people on this like over the last few months, and there's two parts to it. The second one is the finding I've had. I'll share that in a second. First, I think it's worse than you believe.
Worse.
Testers, I believe now, after interacting with a lot of humanity the last few months, is that testers don't actually care about quality. Very rare. Very rare is when the tester care about quality. What they care about is the mechanics of testing. So they love to know they're adding value and getting paid for putting their headphones on and executing the same suite manually over and over and over again. Maybe a little exploratory testing on Friday afternoon. But they like that activity. They also, if you're a developer, like if you're an automation developer, they love to create page object models.
Yes.
That's what they're there for. They want to code.
Actually, I hate creating page object models, personally. I must not be Jason's target group here because I am wearing headphones. Normally I wear my in-ears. That is an uninteresting story, is that I left my in-ears at church because I play music. I'm like a volunteer worship director at the moment. And I left my in-ears at church. So now I'm wearing headphones. So I would have proven him wrong. I would have proven him wrong, but I hate creating page object models, honestly. So I don't know if I'm the target here.
Most of them interviewed to be a developer.
Yep.
Didn't pass the interview loop. So this is a practice job to get to the developer role. So they can create more buttons, I guess. I don't know, it's not interesting to me. But they like the craft. They like doing the work in the execution of it. They not only don't care about quality, they also don't care about efficiency, because the inefficiency in the process is their fun. And that's what they're there for. So I think the vast majority of testers don't actually care about quality, and they actually don't care about efficiency. And they absolutely don't want to use these tools, to be very clear. I think they don't want to use these types of tools because it threatens their job. And
I don't think it threatens our job, and I don't think it's as good as I'm going to say something right now. And this, again, I really like Jason. Jason might be the Elon Musk of AI testing. As in, I think that you say what you want about Elon Musk. There's so many people I think that have some various perspectives on him. But let's think like pre-Doge Elon Musk. Elon Musk is overcommit, underdeliver. Let's be honest. Does some amazing stuff, but tends to like way overcommit due to, I think, a deep excitement of the thing that they're involved in. That they see a potential future that is exciting that we have a difficult time seeing. And I feel like that is a similar situation with Jason, where this is like an overcommitment of what is capable. I am not personally afraid of these tools. I'm more afraid of the outcome of the loss of maybe something even intangible. And we'll continue to get to explore this, I think. The loss of something intangible that happens when humans are involved with quality practices. I don't agree. I've met a lot of people at conferences and stuff. I don't completely agree with his conversation or his thoughts about people not caring about quality. But I also don't agree with Jason about like the core purpose of testing. From conversations I understand, like the purpose of testing is to find bugs. Not true in my opinion. The purpose of testing is to provide information up the chain about the system. We're providing information about the quality in light of the risk and time and materials and scope and everything, and saying this is what we're seeing. But I think there's something intangible, possibly, maybe tangible, if I explore this further, or we explore this further together, that is going to be missing, that is going to cause side effects that we don't completely foresee yet, though I think we have seen a shadow of it when we use these large consultancies to write lots of tests for us. And so we feel good. We have all these tests and it was so cheap. We didn't have to pay this person to actually understand the system, become a SME, subject matter expert, and understand the system and write tests and poke around at it to advise on the quality and advise on the risk and say, are we ready to release? Are we not ready? I don't feel good about this. My instincts are saying this is wrong. My instincts are saying there's a defect cluster here. All those intangibles, those values you get, I think we're going to create additional risk in the software ecosystem with over-reliance and the loss and deprecation of those skills due to over-reliance on these type of tools. Instead of using them to assist you, you use them to turn your brain off and have this thing do the thinking for you in a very flawed way, because it's just trying to guess. It's trying to do its best educated, not even educated guess. It's trying to generate tokens, okay? Trying to generate tokens that seem like good tokens that would make sense to you because it's absorbed all the text on the internet, essentially, right? So anyways, kick my soapbox away. Let them keep cooking.
They like things to be predictable, and it ruins their fun. So let me tell you one quick anecdote that's beautiful. This is not just a testing specific thing. There's the IDE. So these are I know you know this, but for our audience, there's tools where developers can code, right? And then they can type in prompts, add a button in the top right corner for sign in or whatever, and it goes off and generates the code for them. It sounds like a tool, like maybe even a tease. Maybe it could work, but one of those companies just got an offer for buyout for $3 billion, I think, yesterday. So it's like legit. There's interest in people using it. The problem, so they asked the CEO of this thing in a Q&A, what's the biggest concern or problem your users have? And he was going to say something about some feature or wish or something like that. But no, he stopped himself and he said, the developers don't want to be testers. And I was like, let me think about it. I'm still thinking about it to today. Because what it does is it turns that developer into a tester because the AI is doing most of the code. Now they're accountable for it. They have to test it now. They're the tester. And they might fix things up and rejigger it a little bit, adding human value and review. They have to review the code and that they're accountable for it. And they're testing it now. Like most of their job is prompting, waiting, go get a coffee or while the agentic stuff runs. And they come back and have to fix things up a little bit. Sometimes it just works.
It's a dystopian world. Jason just described a very dystopian world. Man, I have so many thoughts about this. I have so many thoughts about the problem that this causes. One of the problems being that people think that they shouldn't learn to code anymore, because everything's just some agentic prompting agent. So why should I learn to code? When there's value in learning to code for the joy of learning to code and create things without any assistance. Limitations create ingenuity. You could see this in 8-bit video games. The limitations on the amount of space they had and the amount of sounds they had for the music and the sound effects. Look at any of the best Nintendo games, and you see so much ingenuity because of the limitations. And learning to program yourself from scratch without any generative AI is worthwhile. In my opinion, will continue to be worthwhile despite generative AI and despite generative AI getting better. That's what I worry. I worry that we're creating a certain image of what's the point? What's the point in learning for doing I've got the materials right here. I'm getting way off and this video is going to take way longer because of this, but I think this is important. So I've got the ISTQB foundation level syllabus right here. I printed it out and my wife was kind enough to laminate the front. We'll see if we can get this on camera. Yeah. Okay. So I know I could pass this. I know I could. And I'm studying for it right now to pass it because I want that stamp, right? It would be very easy, I think, for someone to listen to what Jason's saying and think that this is pointless. Why would we have a human do this, right? And learn this? What's the point in learning this? When we could have generative AI do all the testing, read that syllabus and be better than you at it. When that's not completely the truth, because we don't work, our brains, our neurons don't work the same way as a generative AI does. When again, it's trying to guess tokens. I'm not trying to guess tokens right now. That's not exactly how I work when I'm talking. I have ideas. I have long-term memory. I've got all kinds of other stuff going on with the limbic system, right? All this other stuff is going on. We're unique creatures, and the energy efficiency is insane compared to one of these networks, which the compute is still very expensive and generally compared to the human brain, right? Someone could correct me. Please, in the comments, correct me. I try to stay as much on how generative AI works, how large language models work. My concern is the loss of, you have a generation of people in software that aren't aware of best practices and why, and this foundation that again makes these great SME type people that are so valuable to your team and uncover things and bring so much value to the review process and all these different parts of software development. They're going to look at a video like this like, well, what's the point? What's the point? That's one of my big concerns here. I'm excited about these tools to get rid of some of that boilerplate, right? But I feel like, again, if we're just going to throw something out just because, what's the point in doing it? Kind of like music, anything that generative AI can generate. There's still joy and beauty in creating those things regardless. And ultimately, you know what? Chess is a really good example. Chess bots have far exceeded us for quite a while. People still sit and watch humans play chess. Okay? Even though if you put a chess bot against some of the best players, almost always it's, the bots are just so much better. And in fact, they're using bots to learn better moves, right? So humans still watch humans play chess. There's something intrinsically valuable to us about humans doing certain activities. And this EAC futurism, when taken to the farthest extreme, I think can cause some really I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. It creates some really unhealthy perspectives on certain activities and tasks. I think that's the general problem I have with this, but let's keep going.
Works, but they have to test it. And they don't want to be testers. The analogy here is, in the testing world, is the same thing is coming to the testing world, where AI can and will do the bulk of the testing, and it's demonstrable today. If people want to live in denial, that's fine, but it's demonstrable. But guess what testers don't? Guess what testers like to do? They like to do the testing. Just like the developers like to code. I
actually don't like to do the testing either. Maybe I'm just not a tester. There's a lot of other activities that I feel like are more valuable, but I've also been a manager before, and I found a lot more value. Like the thing I liked the least was writing the automated tests. It was more like building the framework out. So the rest of the team, including the developers, could more easily write automated tests and run them more easily. That's what I enjoy doing. I don't enjoy writing the tests, actually. I really don't like doing the tests. That's why I am excited about generative AI. Like if you could give some assistance while building out the framework based on, I've got 13 years of experience doing this, and having a little assistant that kind of helps me get rid of the boilerplate, build out a great infrastructure for developers and some other automation engineer, QA engineers write tests. I feel like that's highly valuable. Or even then, let generative AI write the tests, but as long as it follows all my standards, right? Because those standards likely come from my org or come from experience, knowing what's going to be the best way to do this, that's most scalable and things like that. But I feel like Jason's creating like a straw man. I think that's what's happening here that's bothering me. It's like, oh, you're in denial. It's like, well, no, it's almost like a straw man. It's like an Inception level straw man where it's like, if you question any of this, you're just in denial. Like, I use generative AI. I use it in my daily job. I use it in lots of other things. I'm not in denial of generative AI. I think I'm just less of an optimist and less of an EAC optimist about it, and less of an EAC about it. But I really do feel like Jason is setting up a straw man here to sort of like any of the dissenters, like anyone who brings any substantive thoughts about this, like, no, you're just in denial because it's going to take your job away. It's like, I don't think that's actually the case here. I think there's people with legitimate concerns about this that aren't just like in denial of it, that have actual, kind of like the concerns I tried to formulate as best I could a moment ago.
Like to do the testing. They don't like to be the test manager. Everyone goes like, who tests the tests, right? Well, no one really does. We know that, Joe. Rarely does anyone really review tests. But that's the mode that it's going to be putting. The bulk of the work for testers moving forward will be reviewing the output and tests of the AI agents and testing bots. And most testers won't like that and don't want to do that. So it's going to be a very interesting.
Again, maybe I'm just not the norm, but that's actually what I'd rather do. I'd much rather review the tests, review the code. I don't like writing tests. Maybe I am the target demographic demographic of these products because I don't like to write the tests. And probably because I've been a QA manager. I've been a lead. I've been a QA manager of a team. So maybe I have the target demographic. I don't know.
Interesting period here. And I'll finish up with the IDE thing is what just happened. I just launched these this week, but with MCP, back to what you said at the top of the hour, we've used MCP and added our testing agents now into the IDE experience. So when that developer, so this is what's coming next is that developer has to test the code. Well, when the AI generates it, right? No, now with MCP, they can just say in their IDE, in their tool, say, hey, check this for me, or can you test this website out for me? And guess what happens, Joe? It goes and starts testing it.
Nice.
And then guess what happens? The bugs from that get auto uploaded back into the IDE. And guess what the AI coding agent does, Joe? It looks at the bug report list, and guess what it does? It starts to fix them. And then it produces a new build.
And where does all that data go? From all these queries, the data goes somewhere and gets used. It gets used to train future models. So if you're in a PII type space, civic space, there's a lot of high risk here. There's a lot of risk.
And it sends it back to the AI testing agents. And at some point, they're not perfect yet. They're not genius yet. But at some point, most of the basic stuff has been found, fixed, and resolved and verified. And then the humans come in. So I think of them as the humans now are starting to become the exception handlers in a very polite way. But when the AI can't figure it out, only after the AI can't figure it out, the humans come in and handle the exceptions.
Which you can experience this if you try to use generative AI to code anything. You will hopefully, well, I would be very surprised if you don't reach a point where you're so irritated and frustrated with whatever you're using, whether it's Copilot, Amazon Q, Cursor, Void, whatever. If you don't reach a point where you keep trying to get it to do something and it is like fighting with you, and you just go, fine, I'm gonna do this live. We'll do it live. I'll write this thing myself because I've spent more time trying to prompt the generative AI to give me the code that I want than if I would have just written it myself at the beginning. So you can experience this yourself. Do some vibe coding and see how long it takes till you hit a wall and then good luck to understanding that code.
Fix things up that the AI couldn't figure out or do. But that net process is like measurably 10 to 100 times faster than the similar human process, especially when you measure latency. So that's what's coming next. So the question is, these testers, only a few testers I think will make that leap across this threshold here.
So what are they going to do?
I hope more testers make that leap because I feel as though when I say I feel, I've only been doing this 13 years. That's not actually as much time as like Jason or Joe. I'm positive that they've been in this much longer than me. This is when I say I feel, my instincts say that this will roll out, broad adoption will roll out slower than the most optimistic person thinks it will. I think rollout and adoption will be slower than we think. So I'm hoping more people make that transition. But
what are the skills they need then, or habits?
So I say this is a good news. There's a preface to that. I promise I'll answer the question. The real interesting thing here, though, is that AI is generating code. I use this basic napkin math. AI can generate code, say, 10 times faster. If you look at the top, like listen to these people that don't. Apparently, testers know more than the CEOs of Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, and it's amazing.
Again, we get into this problem of you could sit me down and say, write as many tests as possible for this application. And I could write you a ton of tests. Whether those tests hold any value at all for you, any value for the users, And any long-term value in regards to maintainability, that is in question. If you just said, just write me a lot of tests, and you gave me almost no other guidance, I could write you a bunch of garbage. I would feel guilty about it because I'm a human. I would feel really bad. And I would step back, and if you asked me again, I'd be like, can I create you a smaller subset of actually valuable tests that I, from my best understanding, my experience in this field, and based on what you've told me about what's important to your user base and maybe some user feedback that you've gotten, can I write tests that cover that? Or can I write tests covered on based on areas where likely there's a defect cluster and highly valuable tests as regressions? Two totally different frame of mind, right? And I'd probably give you a lot less tests when it comes to the numbers, but within the same amount of time, obviously less tests, I think of a higher quality and value to you as the client or end user. So I think we're getting to this place again. If it just because it generates a bunch of code doesn't mean that's maintainable code. Doesn't mean it's understandable code, and doesn't mean that it's quality code. None of those things. We're just again throwing numbers out, wanting to say this thing more cheaply creates us lots of code, lots of tests. What is the quality? Joe brought it up before. What is the quality?
Amazing, Joe. They're freaking geniuses. They're just trapped doing manual test execution every day, but they know better than all these guys. So, sorry, you can tell I spent too much time in my cave and reading LinkedIn. But the reality is
that's dangerous.
Is that these agents are going to produce 10 times the amount of code. And if you think humans are only needed for 10% of the work, the amount of code goes up 10x. 10% is what we have today. 10% of the future is what we have today. I think we actually need as many or more testers than we have today. But I think there's going to be a shortage of testers, ironically, because guess what? Most of those testers they'll opt out of the system because they won't want to do that work. The developers don't want to be a tester. They don't want to be a reviewer of tests.
I actually agree with Jason here. I actually agree with him. Like I said, there's going to be times that we disagree and we agree. I completely agree with Jason here. I think that's more likely what the future is. I just think the rollout's going to be much slower than he thinks. I do think he's like onto something here. I just feel like the way he goes about it, it's like he's almost trying to get them to quit sooner just so he can get them out of the pool. I don't know. Yeah, I completely agree with Jason.
And they don't want to embrace the technology. They like what they're doing today.
I agree.
And the world's just going to move past them. So I think ironically might have a shortage of testers, not even just like a break even, but a shortage. But those are the testers that are smart enough, experienced enough, and care about quality enough that they will look and review and appreciate the work that the AI did.
Yep, I agree. I agree here. I saw this often while advocating for just generally stuff. Hey, you advocate for stuff in here, you will get resistance. You'll actually get resistance from well-established testers because it doesn't fit into how they've done things forever. You'll get resistance if you try to change the way they write automated tests. I agree. There's some people that unfortunately I don't want to give up on them. I think Jason seems a little more willing to give up on them. I feel like we shouldn't give up on folks that are really embedded in the way they do things. I think we should continue to advocate for them because there's still value for them in the industry.
It's like some developers go, it's not as smart as me. I'm going to still manually craft all my C code or something. Amazon's stopped hiring engineers. Salesforce claimed to stop hiring engineers too.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. Glassdoor, Orego. Hold on. We're going to fact check. Manager, software development, director of software development manager, senior design program manager, software development engineer 2. I don't know if this is true, Jason. In Luxembourg. Software Development Engineer 2, Software Development Engineer 2, IT Manager, Senior Process Engineer. It looks to me like Amazon's still hiring engineers, my friend. Whenever I hear that, I always the alarm bells start to go off. They've got we saw at least Software Development Engineer 2 in Lux. It looks like Luxembourg is really yeah, they're definitely still hiring engineers. So not completely true. Excuse me. I don't know where you got the info from. There's definitely software engineering jobs.
And switching over to AI, and that trend's gonna, pendulum's gonna keep going the other way, where they're gonna. And what Facebook, I think, just said they're getting rid of most mid-level engineers, I think, or something this year or next. So there's going to be an outflow from the testing world at the very moment we need very experienced and caring and passionate testers.
I agree.
I think is what's going to happen. There's going to be so many test results reviewed. I'll give you one quick example. Sorry. If you just go to the testers.ai.
We'll have a link for it down below as well, so people can check it out also. Okay, good.
And a brilliant business model. I'm giving away AI testing agents for free. It's genius.
Wow.
But if you go there, and even better than that, there's test results for like almost 500 homepages of companies around the world, of like the top web pages on the planet. The AI's already tested them, and you can browse around and look at the bugs it's found and stuff like that. So I'm not only am I giving the tool away free, I'm actually testing people's pages for free. I need a business partner. But it's demonstrable that like no tester could have done that, and it's happening now. So it's just this is the reality of the world. Yeah.
So I've done trivial things with like a ChatGPT. I get sometimes good output, and sometimes I'm like, what the heck? Like something stupid, like an image. Here's an image. Keep it exactly how it is, and just change this one thing. And every time I did it, and I have a chat, it's always different. It still changes it, and that's just trivial. So how can we trust the AI agents to be doing what they say they're doing?
Perfect.
You know what I mean,
perfect example. So again, there's two. Usually you're supposed to do three, but I'll just do two because don't have a lot of RAM.
That's not true. Jason is
that
brilliant.
Picture that came out. I'll just make this philosophical argument. Picture that came out. A, you could call it user error because you didn't specify it well enough, the change you wanted. B, this is my AI apology. B, it's your opinion. If I execute the same prompt, maybe the picture it gave would have been what I wanted. So it doesn't know what you want. There's variety and ambiguity in that, but also the reality is, it's not that smart yet. But if you look even last week, if you look at what is it, Blink or whatever, and there's and the new ChatGPT stuff, it's getting pretty darn good. So guess what we're talking about, Joe?
So Jason just said skill issues. Well, Jason just said that Joe has skill issues in prompting. He just wouldn't say it. And Jason is brilliant. He talked down to himself about the amount of RAM he has, but Jason, I will say this again. I want to be fair. I think Jason is brilliant. I think that's actually part of his downfall. He's so smart. He is so ahead of the curve. He's almost a little too far ahead of the rest of us. And it could cause him to seem really abrasive, but I think he actually really cares about the craft of testing. I just think that it could be, there's some detrimental effects to this potentially.
We're talking about, oh no, I asked it. What would you ask it to do? I asked it to take a picture, swap in Fabio's hair for mine, right?
Yes.
And I know you, Joe. I see your query. I got your prompts instrumented. And then guess what? The hair just wasn't flowing right. Well, 1%er problem. And by the way, if we're really worried about it, wait 6 weeks, maybe 3 months. And it'll be even better. So,
but
or learn Stable Diffusion. Like I do a lot with Stable Diffusion to alter images that I need for content. Just there's great like forges and stuff for Stable Diffusion. Run it yourself. Get a decent GPU. I don't know. I don't know if I would goof with for generating images. I wouldn't goof with any of the services right now. Just run Stable Diffusion yourself. I know there's supposedly better models for most basic stuff you're gonna get done. You're gonna be able to get a lot done with Stable Diffusion run locally. Just get a decent GPU.
trivial problem. What about like at an enterprise like that's doing radiology software? I mean, like completely.
Oh, okay. Good point. So if you look around, one thing is you look at studies, actual academic things. The AI is on average, this is an interesting thing. AI on average is better than most of these radiologists themselves, like literally is. And guess how radiologists are using AI? They let the AI go through thousands of these things efficiently, and they look at the anomalies and they look at ones that are the extrema, right? Just like I'm saying, how developers are using AI and how testers should be using AI. So I think first, you shouldn't really be waiting for the AI to be perfect. By the way, it never will be. And also the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some testers think AI is wrong because they're not a very good tester, frankly. Or sometimes they think it's really wonderful because they're not a great experienced tester.
See what I mean? Like he's just savage. He's just so smart and he's so ahead of the curve that it just comes off as abrasively, and then he just throws these little like digs out just to. I feel like he's legitimately trying to, like thin the herd. Like, okay, if you can't handle this, I'm gonna thin you. I'm gonna thin you out by saying these really abrasive things. But I think thankfully those people he was talking about that are gonna make the transition are not. I'll maybe maybe I'm thinking too highly of myself and maybe put myself in that boat, and something like this doesn't scare me away, right? It doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm going to take my toys and go home.
And they're fine with the basic responses. In terms of, I think what you're getting at is how do you rely on this stuff that is variable and not always predictable.
It hallucinates.
Again, even if you exclude the human in the loop, the way we do it at Testers AI, and I've had to do this, by the way, not just because it's cool to do, but because I had to control quality, is almost everything that's done is peer reviewed by one agent, by another agent. There's actually like a test manager agent that reviews the work of the other laboring AI agents.
Okay, so if you're familiar, that's kind of a adversarial network. So it's this idea that you have a someone that creates counterfeit paintings, and then you have a inspector who is an expert on spotting counterfeit paintings, and you pit them against each other, and they're always trying to outwit each other, and they get better over time. I know that's not exactly what they're doing here, but that's what it makes me think of, as these adversarial networks where you have the counterfeiter against the inspector, and they both get better because they're trying to outwit each other or catch the other one.
Also use multiple LLMs, by the way, to cross-check each other. And like for every flow, even though the agent thinks it did well, it double checks it again and says, hey, does this, here's the intent, here's the actual results, here's the consequence. Like, does that seem correct, right, to you? So there's like 4 levels of eval and in checking, because I'm a tester, right? But the funny thing is this. Think of the reverse. Every tester thinks like, oh, versus a perfect ideal world that doesn't exist. Look at your Selenium scripts and Java.
Oh gosh.
When you do a flow, right, and you're clicking through an app, for example, and you get to the 4th page where you're supposed to be, how do you know that you're there? Guess what everyone does? They grep or they do a regex looking for a string on that page, which will be a shopping cart or something, right? So they make sure they got there. There's so little validation in existing test automation. It's embarrassing now. The AI looks at console logs, network activity, screenshot of the app, has the context of the whole flow, and it has kind of the combined intelligence of the planet to a degree embedded in it. And when it looks at that last radiology chart picture, right, on the screen for the doctor to review that application that the doctor is going to look at, it looks at the entire screen. And it can, even if you ask the Selenium developer, automation engineer, is this the right page? And guess what it is? It's a radiology chart for somebody that has a problem, right? Guess what the AI can do? The AI can act, and your script finds a problematic chart, right? The AI not only verifies holistically that you got there correctly, that the flow made sense, but that screen makes sense for a human to look at, because it can find UI bugs and if it's confusing or even difficult to read or has usability issues or anything like that, it finds those. Selenium scripts don't find any of that stuff. But most importantly, it can even give you an assessment on this exact thing problem you gave me.
Selenium scripts is a little bit of a straw man because most teams I've experienced aren't using just pure Selenium. They're building out more infrastructure in their framework, or they're using Cypress, they're using Playwright. Then there's the outliers that use everything else, but yeah, a little bit of a straw man here, but I get his point.
Of the radiology image. And you can ask it, do you think there's a problem in here? Does this look like a problematic scan as I was expecting? So you can actually get that. You talk about that test team. I know somebody might have worked on a medical product in the past, but that your automation never did any of that. So even though there's imperfections in the radiologists themselves, but the interesting thing is that on average, it's faster. There's far better coverage, far less expensive, and can give you far more validation than we even usually have today in most situations.
All right, I've got to run for a little bit. I will be back as quick as possible, but I will be right back and we'll continue watching this. We've got about a little more than halfway, I think, and we'll finish watching this. But I need to run really quick. I said I'd come back. It just took a little longer than I thought, and no one's watching anyways. Oh, I need an electrolyte, but I don't need an electrolyte, but I need an electrolyte, but I was going to say something else. I'm just going to take an electrolyte. Okay. Let's try to get back into this video. Wrap things up because we've gone quite a bit over.
Even that radiology, because the AI can actually look at that radiology output. Try the GPT, the latest GPT on a radiology image that you used to. I guess you can't, but if you ran it local, you could. But that's better than any Java Selenium code I have ever seen in my life.
And it's almost doing it like a real user because it's using visuals. Is that what it is? It's all image based now, or is it?
Well, depending on Utah. So our stuff is it's a combination of actually a lot of things. It looks at the DOM, also visual, also network activity, an API is called, and console logs. That's what it looks at today. So it puts all those together, not just to find bugs, but also to figure out how to execute it and then verify that flow was executed correctly.
Yeah. So I guess another thing that's been freaking me out, I've been reading this this website. They wrote a book called Modern Day Oracles of BS Machines. How to thrive in a ChatGPT world.
I think I saw that. Yep.
And they gave a good. So I guess my question to you before we get into that, I guess it relates is: is an LLM thinking? Are these agents thinking?
No,
nobody knows. But the funny thing is, Joe, we cannot define what human thinking is. We don't even know what consciousness is. Like we can't. Somebody this week has an MRI version of maybe a way through kind of the entropy of the brain state to decide if a person is conscious or not conscious, like asleep or awake. But that's as close as we get. So when humans are saying, "Oh, this isn't thinking,"
hold on. So I could be asleep right now. I don't know.
I just don't think you're a conscious agent. You're just part of my simulation.
Oh man!
But actually, you were an in-app purchase that I proactively opted into, and I had to do a lot of farming to get you, and I appreciate it. But no, so the funny thing is, humans think we're so smart, but like we have a ton of biases, and one of them is just that we think we're smart, and so we judge everything else like against the way that we think in our decisions. Like I was saying, there's beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? Like sometimes some person, based on their experience or whether they're what their mood is. Like you've seen these studies where judges change their sentencing decisions based on before or after lunch, right? Is dramatic, a significant bit. But frankly, Anthropic had an article, they released a paper like maybe last week. They're trying to trace through and debug these neural nets, these deep neural nets, to figure out what thinking is happening or not. But the weird thing is this: at the end of the day, we don't even know how our own brains work. Let alone, I think it's a hubris to criticize how, in that context, how another thing might be thinking or determine whether it's thinking or not, because we can't even decide how we think. And really, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. And the real metric today, from a testing quality perspective, are these evals.
I think, though, I would disagree in the sense that we know, even though we don't know exactly how the neural networks are working, though they're getting further and further in that study, we have a good idea of what generative AI is, which is token guessing. And I'm fairly certain, but not an expert, that we know enough about the way that the human brain works, maybe not consciousness, but the way the human brain works, to say that we're not doing the same thing. I don't believe we're just guessing the next token based on all the text that we have in our brain. There's so much other stuff going on. And again, with the limbic system, I guess I would agree with, we definitely think we're smarter. Yeah, there is some hubris there, being a human. I think some humility is always really, some actual humility, being that, there's definitely going to be things more intelligent than us. There may already be things technically more intelligent. And that all depends on, too, are we going to use just, intelligence is a really sticky, controversial conversation, especially when you talk about intelligence quotient and the way testing is done, the way testing has changed over time, how we test people's intelligence. But outside of the scope of this.
Right? That measure everything from math to science to world knowledge to factuality. Even testers always worry about hallucination. Hallucination has dropped like a rock. It used to be a big problem. It's far, far, far fewer in between a problem. So the reality is, we don't know how they think. We don't know how we think. And at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter, as long what matters is what they can do from an applied engineering perspective.
That's fair.
From applied engineering perspective, they can generate better. No human wants to do this. Like, they should challenge themselves to a test with AI, right? Sit down and write. I did this at a conference, by the way, recently. I had people in a workshop sit down. They gave everybody 10 minutes, a room of 50 people, find bugs on the conference webpage, right? No one found really anything. There were like a couple things here or there. I ran the AI in the same time. Actually took like less time than that. And I gave them these 50 testers that care enough to go to a conference. And we found like 40 issues. And by the way, some real nasty security ones. But the best bug was this at the end of the day. The AI did a bunch of pre-thinking, and it found out there were some problems, some sketchy stuff. I won't mention them because they're security. Sketchy stuff in the auth and login area. It found some bugs and issues. But a human during the break looked at that result and then went off and dug deeper and found out that it was some catastrophic security problems, right? And so, and those have been fixed. But it was the combination of the whatever it's thinking or not with the human thinking or not. That's where the real power comes from. The basics can get done very expensively and slowly with humans or quickly with machines. But the best is when I think the AI is finding the smoke, and then the testers find the fire. That's, I think, where we're evolving.
Yep, I agree. 100% agree. I feel like this is the ideal symbiotic relationship between generative AI and humans doing testing work in particular. The generative AI could be like a canary in the coal mine. It shows you where are the meaningful places for the human to look. I agree.
But most testers just want to look for smoke and then foul the bug and move on.
No, not me.
So I think you brought up a great point there, though, is you had people actually try it within a conference setting to kind of challenge them. So I challenge people that may not agree with you, maybe go to testers.ai and download it and try it for themselves. So what can they try? Can you explain a little bit more? I know you mentioned sometimes about personas, so they would download it. How hard is it to get up and running? And then are they able to run API tests, accessibility tests, performance tests? How does that all work?
Yeah, so it's actually, I try to make it as super easy as possible. So you can just download it. You download a binary. You have to pick. It's very complicated. You have to pick which platform you're on. Windows, Ubuntu, Mac. You have to know if you're on Mac Intel or ARM. So we lose about 40% of testers.
Come on.
Actually, I think we do.
Come on, Jason.
And then you download your machine and you mark it as safe to run because you trust me. And I'm not monitoring your image queries, Joe. But you just download it and then you run it. The name of the app is called Testers. Like on Windows, it's called testers.exe. and you have to go to a console. If you double click it, this is my biggest issue right now. People they don't see anything run because it doesn't have a GUI. That's a command line. So you have to open up a terminal and type testers.exe space test, TEST. It's four characters. And you hit enter, and what it will do, and then you can add, and then after that you add your URL, whatever your URL is you want tested. And if you're behind a firewall, it can test internal URLs, as long as it can get to the web page. What it does then is it wakes up, automatically loads your web page, loads all the agents. You can see them dance around and do their inspection and testing and their chat back and forth. They're talking to each other about what issues they found. You see the test manager come in and triage them. It all happens automatically while you're just watching. And then it will generate functional test cases. And the demo mode, when you first download, just with no flags, the demo mode, it will report those bugs, and then it will execute 3 of the functional tests that it defined. So it'll define like 20 or 30 simple ones, and then execute them for you, though. Right there, you'll see it clicking through and records a video of the whole event, and provides a test report. It's pretty, that's what I do. Download it, run one command line, and it will do all that. And
sounds like we're going to be doing this in a very near future, maybe Wednesday. I need to think of a good target to point it at, but yeah, sounds like we're going to be doing this on Wednesday.
I would say you can do,
or maybe Friday. I don't know. We'll see.
All these customizations, but really we're in a new world. If that's possible, and only that was possible, that's a pretty crazy world. So, and if people want to generate 2 tips, if people want to generate custom personas, it's just a flag. And you can tell it what type of, you can say, for a friend, Kevin, I think you know Kevin, for his website, he works at the church in Utah, and you just type -- custom personas, and then you put in quotes the prompt, and you say, return missionaries looking for the singles word to date. And it creates a bunch of user personas that match that criteria. And then next run, it will run them against the website, and you get feedback from them on what the website should be doing and their expectations, whether expectations are met in terms of features and content.
But how does it get? I don't understand how it gets the context of that. Like, how does it know that? That's such a obscure kind of persona. How does it know how to match that persona?
It's crazy. It's fun. I did the same thing with the world travelers that are. By the way, this is the funny part. I asked it for rich world travelers that travel with their dog, right? Just generate those, and generated a few of them. The funny one was almost all of them were older, but you'd expect that.
Right.
But how does it do it? It's a lot of, there's Arbin magic in there, but the reality is GPT. If you ask GPT right now, right, any chat LLM, and you go, you can actually ask it right now. You can say, generate personas that match this description, and it's pretty darn good.
We should try that too. I'll make a note. We're going to try that too, just to kind of show what the pre-existing tooling that people are more familiar with. We'll do that as well, either Wednesday or Friday. I'm still trying to decide. Probably Friday, and I'll advertise it. But yeah, this is in our near future.
And it's 100 times less expensive, or actually 1,000 times probably less expensive than human doing it. Probably 100 times faster. But it does it. And there's a lot of.
But it is valuable. Do you get the same value you would as a person doing it, or do you get more, or do you get less? That's the question we need to start answering.
There's a lot of painful evenings I've had trying to make sure how to get that into execution and bug reporting stuff. But yeah, LLMs. What people don't understand about LLMs, testers especially don't get, is that LLMs really do have the context of the world in them, but testers just, for whatever reason, cannot get it out of there because they think everything has to be scripted, written precisely, triple checked by a human. The reality is that the AI even knows more about testing than almost any tester. I challenge them, like, take a quiz.
It's anthropomorphizing to say no. I don't think that generative AI knows anything. I think that it is capable of predicting text that makes it appear as if it knows things.
I had it take the So
ISTQ.
I had to take the what are those standardized tests? What's the big standardized test?
ISTQ or something, or IS?
Yeah, ASTQB or whatever.
We were just talking about it. They're talking about this. They're talking about foundation level, probably. ISTQB, certified tester. I have no doubt it could pass. Well, I have some doubts. Based on some experience of some things, but let's let them keep cooking. But yeah, they're talking about the ISTQB. It's right here. I have it right here.
And it passed with flying colors. Ironically, the only one that it didn't really do well on is the AI test manager one. And I looked at the questions, a little sus as to whether they're relevant or not. And then they put a banner up. I might have told you this before. They put a banner up after I did that. And I publicized that it's passing these tests. The certification stuff that you cannot automatically test, and you can't publish any results from any testing that you do on the test page. Which is funny. But the people, just testers, don't know how to unlock it because I think the reality is they don't want it to work, and they also don't sit down.
I want it to work
4 or 5 hours and learn how to use it and learn.
That's fair.
Like
skill issues. This is Jason just needs to say, if he's talking to like the rest of the internet, like developers who are aware of memes, Jason, you're not going to listen to this. Well, I shouldn't say that. Likely you're not going to listen to this, but maybe I'll clip this. Just say skill issues. Because I think it's actually relevant, and I think it's actually fair for you to say that. It is easy. This is coming from someone who's almost a decel at times. It is easy to throw criticism at something if you don't spend the time to learn how to properly use it. I did the same thing actually with Test Rigger. I did not give Test Rigger a fair shake because I wanted it to be some streamlined experience, right? So that's not completely fair. But if you're watching this clip, just say skill issues and we'll get it. Because it is. And I've experienced it, and I've been just as guilty with Test Rigger, and I want to give it another chance. And other tools like that. I want to give them more chances. I want to be fair. I want to be open-minded.
Because they ask one question and it gives them a crappy answer. They ask a simple question. Usually the person you talked to earlier today would ask a question with misspelled, poor grammar, but they're stupid questions. And then they get a stupid answer. But guess what? You can also ask the AI to give you an answer for quantum mechanics, to describe quantum mechanics as if you're talking to a 5-year-old. So it adapts to the question. So a lot of times the AI is deliberately giving you a non-sophisticated answer as a tester because you've asked it a simple question, and testers always ask simple questions first. They do the BVTs, they do the smoke tests first. But guess what? Smoke tests on AI give you simple, dumb answers, and they move on.
That's completely fair. Again, I've actually purposely had ChatGPT and other generative AI. I asked it specifically, teach this to me like I'm a high school student. When I'm into a completely new subject, that actually, when I first started to learn about generative AI, large language models, neural networks, I asked it to teach it to me like I was a high school student. And it was much more helpful than when I went with it. I think I was asking questions that were too sophisticated maybe, or the answers were too sophisticated for someone who was uninitiated yet. So I completely agree with this. There are times that prompting is very important, and it can be difficult, but getting good at prompting is going to continue to be, and will continue to be very key to getting the most value out of generative AI.
We really need to push it, ask it multiple questions, and then give it a lot of context, and then judge the thing. But if people can't do that, they're not really ready to use AI, frankly.
Yeah.
So another use case came into my head. I was reading this book, Oracle of BS Machines, and they said if someone is prompting it incorrectly, say they're generating garbage, and they don't know, they're not an expert, they're copying it, publishing on a blog, and over time, how does LLMs learn? They scrape these sites. So over time, does it degenerate over time if it's going to start using? Is that a real fear? Because someone said that could possibly happen.
The reality is, so this is, there's always.
He's referring to the shitification. Excuse my French. He's referring to the shitification of the internet. It's this idea that neural networks generative AI, everything, it's eating its own crap. As it continues to generate more content out in the world and then gets trained off of content from the internet, it's going to start eating its own poo. So that's what he's referring to. You watch Machine Learning Street Talk, they talk about the shitification of the internet off and on. And again, excuse me if that's offensive to you, but that's the term used from pretty much all the prolific minds on this, is the shitification of the internet.
You know, people were anti bicycles at one point. They were anti locomotives. They were anti like plows at some point. That's actually like 2-3-year-old kind of thinking. Most of the LLMs today are like they use reinforcement learning, like and they use you know, hundreds of thousands or more of human input to the reinforcement learning with, to make it say the right things and to teach it what is a fact and what is just rumor, right? What is the earth flat or not, right? If enough people say that the earth is flat, the LLMs won't say the earth is flat unless you ask it to tell you that. So no, I think the people that talk about those things and write those things, frankly, we spend hours on this. They frankly don't understand the technology. And usually they're computer science professors that were not part of the LLM craze and did not make any money on this stuff. If you look up almost all of them, all the naysayers, they fall in that category. And also almost all the testers that complain about AI and LLMs and testing, if you look at them, they were formerly employed somewhere recently and upset that they can't. They're upset with their job hunt, usually.
These are professors. I'm going to look them up. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm just guessing. But usually they're, you know, and they've studied some different field that didn't take off, so they're kind of jelly. Is the reality, especially like Marcus, like and if you look at them too, look at their tweets. They've always made these protests like, oh, AI will never do this. AI could never do that. And then guess what? Like 6 months, 12 months later, they're demonstrably proven wrong. So at some point you got to go, who do you believe? And what you should believe is math. And there's these things called trend lines.
Did you just say a second ago the Marcus? Uh-oh. Hold on. Or maybe we'll just keep going.
And if you look at them too, look at their tweets. They've upset that they can't. They're upset with their job hunt, usually.
These are professors. I'm going to look them up. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm just guessing. But usually they're, you know, and they've studied some different field that didn't take off, so they're kind of jelly. Is the reality, especially like Marcus, like and if you look at them too, look at their tweets. They've always made these protests like, oh, AI will never do this. AI could never do that. And then guess what? Like 6 months, 12 months later, they're demonstrably proven wrong. So at some point you got to go, who do you believe? And what you should believe is math. And there's these things called trend lines and how they're doing on the evals, how they're doing. And by the way, just money speaks, because 1 billion people now are using AI and they're finding some value in it. So usually it's people that have an axe to grind, or they teach a different thing. Like the person you may have talked to earlier, people teach, I'm just guessing. People are used to teaching people how to do things manually and click and then go, oh, here's a puzzle. Can you solve this puzzle? We'll see how creative you are. And that's the measure of, and find this very niche little weird test case or something, right? Or this anomaly. But 99.9% of testing is not that. It's making sure the site still works as expected, and works for the average normal user.
I wasn't sure for a second if he was going to call me out. He was like, listen to, like Marcus, that he went somewhere else. I was kind of worried because he doesn't know my real name. I was really worried I was going to get called out, but I think I'm not.
That's the bulk of testing. And if you can accomplish that, you're in the top 1% of testing teams. It's very rare to get to that point.
Okay, Jason, before we go, is there one piece of actual advice you can give to someone to help them with their AI testing efforts? And what's the best way to find or contact you?
I feel so happy you said that. I listen to that all the time. And I go like, I have some thoughts. I'll be not even commercial because it's free. Just go to testers.ai and download the thing and play with it. It's free.
We are going to.
You can get free bugs and free, like in less than an hour, you can see what AI can do today. And it'll get better. It's not perfect, but try it out. The problem, so the key advice is for testers is test things.
Yep.
Like, instead of imagine how they won't work in some weird obscure case, or they won't cover something very unique to you, just try this stuff, test it out. And the key thing is compare it with an oracle. And guess who the oracle should be? You put yourself to the same test that you gave the AI, and then compare yourself with it. If you just poke holes in things, that's what the lowest degenerate tester does, is they just find problems in things. They don't appreciate the complexity. They don't appreciate the value. They just are super excited to find a bug. Be a tester and be a critical thinker and actually measure these things. That's what I recommend. That's my advice.
I agree.
Be a tester, ironically.
Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. For links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A542. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness.
Yes. Okay. Applause sound effect. I thought that was really good. I ended up agreeing with Jason more towards the end, because again, I think in between these more abrasive statements, I think Jason really does care about the craft of testing. I think he really does care about the future of software testing. I just think sometimes it could be a little abrasive, but most definitely. And again, like saying that they're not hiring software engineers when we can look right here, and Amazon is still hiring engineers. And I'm sure if you go and look at the, let's just filter by software development. Yeah, there's software development engineer 2 jobs just sitting out there. Fair enough in Luxembourg, but it's still the world and it's still engineers. So sometimes those kind of statements that seem like they're maybe a stretch, go do some research. That's a good lesson. I'm not saying, I think Jason probably read it somewhere or heard it somewhere, or maybe is getting ahead of the trend and saying that when they're still hiring engineers here. And even when you look at the companies that are developing AI, they're hiring engineers. So yeah, I think testers.ai demo is in our near future. Maybe Wednesday, maybe Friday. I will advertise it. I hope this was useful. I hope it was interesting. I'll see if I feel like it's worth cutting down to a YouTube video. I'm trying to get my other YouTube video with GenAI assisted code review, which I think is worthwhile. Costs no monies. You don't have to download some special app like this. I mean, you are giving money. You're giving your data to Amazon in some way, or to GitHub if you follow my method. You can opt out, but I think they're still probably collecting something. And you're now building in reliance on the tool. But yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, please comment down below. What did you think? Do you think AI is going to take testing jobs? Do you think that everything that Jason said is completely accurate? Do you take anything that I said to task? Anything he said to task? I would love to hear from you guys. So please comment down below. Click like if you liked the video. Hit subscribe if you want to get more. I'm going to try to edit down more videos. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. Central / 11 a.m. Eastern time. Maybe we'll put that in, again, in UTC. But I stream on Kick, stream on YouTube, and Twitch all at the same time. I'm one of those people, streaming on all of them, stretching myself thin like not enough butter on too much bread. But I appreciate that you decide to hang out here and check out the video. Again, I feel like potentially I'm going to cut this one down, but eat good food, take care of yourself, touch some grass, get some exercise, get some sunlight, go visit a friend, go visit a loved one, call your grandma, call your mom, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife. I know, I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, no, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern time Have a good one. Thanks for watching.